Good
Hello.
evening, everybody. Am I audible to you? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this live session of the Respiratory Research Foundation of India. India has rolled out one of the largest vaccination drives in history, and we have been extremely effective in managing this COVID-19 pandemic, both at the state and the central level. However, since the time we started vaccination on 16th of January 2021, a lot of us have doubts and a lot of more of us were skeptical about whether to take this vaccine or not. So to discuss these frequently asked questions and to allay the fears, and you can ask whatever you want, we have with us Dr. R. Narasimhan, Chairman of the Respiratory Research Foundation of India and Senior Consultant Pulmonologist, Apollo Hospitals, to answer these questions. Welcome, sir. So, before we go on
Thank
to
you,
the
Doctor.
actual session, is this, I have a few questions of my own, few at least, one or two I'll ask. So, before we actually go on, is this new strain that is coming out, now they say the UK strain, and they say Nigeria has developed a new strain, and the virus is getting mutated in different parts of the world so many times that we might actually keep a competition as to which is the most virulent and which is the safest. So, is this new strain worrisome, or are we safe because the vaccines have arrived? And before you answer that, I'd like to tell the audience who are listening or watching this program, if you have any questions, please do ask them on Facebook so that we'll be able to take your questions as they come. Thank you.
Yeah, Ajay, good evening.
Good evening.
So you asked your first statement that our country has done an excellent job in controlling this pandemic is really true. There is no doubt about it. Because when we started with this COVID pandemic, we did not have facilities to test this virus. We did not have N95 masks. We did not have a lot of things.
Ajay, good evening.
Even our social distancing itself was a very big ask in our country. We have come a big way. Our country has done an excellent job in keeping this pandemic under fairly good control. And you also asked a question regarding the new strain that's a lot of debate is going on among the medical circles whether to worry or not to worry about this strain. The answer is every country is bracing for a second wave of infections. Whenever a pandemic hits, there will always be a second and a third waves, but may not be to the extent with which we faced the ferocity in the first pandemic. The reason being, the first to second pandemic, you have drugs available. India itself, did not bear the kind of brunt which the other countries bore because when India started peaking in May, June, we had some drugs available to control this virus. Similarly, when India is likely to get, we have the vaccines that are available now, and when we are likely to have a second wave, actually, UK is going through a very bad phase now, and some countries are like US and Spain also have seen a bad phase with regards to this British strain. And India also might or might not, we don't know, because we have started the vaccination program, like you rightly said. One of the landmark achievements of our country has been the rolling out of one of the biggest vaccination programs. So by which I mean we will be able to achieve certain amount of immunity, whereby the fear of this UK strain may not be that much, though we cannot completely rule out that we may not have a second wave of COVID.
Okay. I think that was a very detailed answer. So, so you are telling we should be getting ready for the second wave, but we need not be as scared as we were during the first wave, if that is right, if I have understood it correctly.
Yes, that's right. Because it is said the second wave of this new strain is more infectious and does not cause much of serious problems, and it affects more of youngsters. That's what they have noticed in UK. Okay. And so youngsters can withstand the disease slightly better than the old people because the first pandemic we said it affects the older generation, people above 60 years, people with comorbidities, people with diabetes, hypertension, and so on. This is not like that. In UK, if you take the thing, there are more youngsters suffering with this new strain of virus, and there are also getting serious problems, but probably they are able to withstand it too.
Okay. So this new strain of the virus, do we have any diagnostics tests to diagnose these upfront, or we have to do some specialized tests for this, or it's just a routine RT-PCR, or is it being done on a widespread basis, or only in some patients where you suspect the new strain, this is being done? What is the general protocol that is being followed now?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. This antigenic strain diagnosis of this new strain is, I would say, a certain amount of lateral thinking. See, for example, UK when they started touching the zero, if you remember, Professor Munawar gave a talk to us when he said 4 or 5 days back it was touching zero, and we are now started peaking again. When they started peaking, they started doing this RT-PCR test, and they found positive results. It was just some kind of a thinking. Maybe it is an epidemiological thinking or something, and which made these countries to look for a genetic sequencing, which means on the RT-PCR testing, you get a positive result and you get a cyclic threshold value. If you do a genetic sequencing of this virus, you realize that this is a different strain. They don't do this as a routine. Even in UK, they have not done it as a routine. Only in some part of the UK, they are doing this, probably in Kent, in some areas, they are doing this genetic sequencing. And they found in genetic sequencing the number of patients suffering with this new variant, antigen new variant, they found it's slightly more than usual. And if you look into the cross section of the epidemiology, look into the section of people who are suffering, they were all youngsters. That is how they found that there is a difference between the virus, the strain that affected the first wave and the one that's now affecting the second wave. There are no specific tests that are there to diagnose this. You only need to do a genetic sequencing, which is done in a research lab, and it takes some time to do those tests.
Is it available to the general public, or is it still, it will take some more time to be available to the general public? This genetic sequencing?
It is not available as of now to the general public. It will take some time because you see, in our country has not seen yet the kind of numbers which you have seen in UK and other places. But the kind of self-reliance and sustenance that India has shown in the wake of this pandemic, I think I won't be surprised that we are able to do the genetic sequencing with faster techniques and technology. We should be able to do that. And I only hope we don't get into that situation, because if one follows the mask, the social distancing, and the hand sanitizer, I don't think one should worry about this. And there are a lot of reports coming in UK. This happened only because of the people were not adhering to the mask, and also people doing these Christmas festivals. Probably there were some gatherings that were going on, and some shoppings, pre-festival shoppings, and so on, should have caused certain amount of spread of this virus, and the disease spiking again in those countries.
Okay. So for the public, again, I would like to ask one question. Is this a new virus or just a new antigenic strain of the same old COVID-19 virus? And why is it affecting predominantly the individuals that were previously exposed but did not get the disease? As you said, the youngsters are being affected more. So this is, maybe you can split it into two parts if you want to, like to. Whether first you can answer whether it is a new virus per se or just a new antigenic strain of the same old virus.
Yeah, that is a good question. Whoever had asked it. If it's a new virus, it's a very big headache for us. It's only an antigenic strain. It's a new antigenic strain. It's the same virus with a new antigenic strain. The spike protein of the virus is capable of developing the new strains. And whenever the vaccines are made, they are made to cover certain of these antigenic strains too. So it is not a new virus. It is a new antigenic strain that is causing it. And the second question which you have asked is why the is it affecting the people? It's quite possible. We don't know. Actually, honestly, there is no answer for this. There are many questions with regards to COVID. Not many people can answer with confidence. One cannot answer with confidence why this is occurring in younger individuals. Someone seems to have asked you just now read, is it affecting those people who did not suffer with the disease but were positive because contact tracing they were positive, they were just in homes quarantine and they didn't develop any disease, or whether they were asymptomatic carriers who had developed disease. There is actually no answers for this. As of now, we don't have any answers for this. Maybe time only is going to tell us whether there will be answers for these questions.
Suddenly we see the people are not wearing masks anymore, and social distancing seems to have taken a back seat in most of the places in our state, our country, in spite of the government being very strict and trying to enforce all this. Is this complacency good or bad?
Not at
Because
all good.
Indians know we seem to have got the mentality that we have already developed herd immunity, so we really don't need to be careful anymore. Is this complacency good or not so good?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you asked two questions in one. The first question is it right not to have a mask? Is this complacency good? You're asked question. It is actually a wrong notion that one can do away with the mask. As I said, whenever a pandemic comes, there is always the pandemic follows a second and a third wave of lesser thing. But there may be some sporadic instances of very high clusters in some places, which means one has to be very, very careful and putting on this mask, maintain that social distancing, maintain the mask and hand sanitizer. These three are going to be important whether it is a vaccine or not, whether you have developed a disease or not, whether you have antibodies or not. Mask is going to be there for some more time until it dies down. In the second and third waves, when it dies down, only one can think of doing away with the mask. I think it looks like a part. Second question is whether our people have developed herd immunity. Indians think that they are developed because we keep seeing in papers. It's very encouraging news of numbers coming down from 500 to 400, 200, 180. And these numbers, as they are coming down, people are developing a kind of complacency and are thinking that we have developed a herd immunity. I think this thought is contrary to what the scientists have seen because most of the serological surveys have put the herd immunity in our country somewhere around 30 to 35% only. The herd immunity can give protection to the community only when we reach around 50 to 60% of the people are infected with this. Many people thinking more than 50% are infected. It is not. Many serological studies have shown that only about 30% are infected. But why did it come down in our country this well? Because of multiple factors. One was a very good lockdown, which was this thing, and for one of the strictest lockdowns in our country, number one. Number two is the insistence on social mask. In the early phase of the disease, many people were quite regular about the masks and the social distancing and so on. And thirdly, I keep telling drugs are available for this COVID. So these are the three reasons why we did fairly well. It is time for us to capitalize on these gains that we have got on this good behavior in the last 7 or 8 months and see that we do not have a second wave with a vengeance.
Okay. So I think that's a very important message for the public who are watching here. So with the vaccines coming in, is there actually a lot of hope for the general common man, or is the hope being is going to be a bubble which is going to burst anytime? And if at all the vaccines are coming, when is it going to be accessible to the general public? One of the persons I was asked, when is their going to be a registration program or something that where the general public is going to get access?
Vaccines are definitely going to be a big boon to control this pandemic. There's no doubt about it. And our country has done extremely well, and most of the countries have started doing that. Our country has done extremely well in starting a corona immunization program itself yesterday, and we are carrying forward with that. And the first priority is always the healthcare workers. There's no doubt about it. Healthcare workers have to be, because it is the doctors who are always at the receiving end. I think in the beginning of the pandemic too, we have seen doctors were denied entry into distinct places. Doctors were denied their quarters. Doctors were denied entry into their houses because they were COVID. We clapped and we did everything for them, but doctors were at the receiving end. And when the vaccines come also, doctors should be the first to get it because they are the people who are there in the front line caring for these people. I think yesterday you have seen some of the TVs, they said doctors are being made stable. It is not actually. Actually, doctors take their, first they need the first vaccine because it gives a fairly good protection. Not many of the studies have said that it has side effects. The safety and efficacy have been proven in many tests. And especially the efficacy part in some of the trials, in some of the vaccines which have come now, say for example, the Covaxin, the efficacy data has not come out yet, they're telling. But the safety has been proven. It is a very safe vaccine. It does not cause a side effect. It does not cause any major side effects. It has been proven. So vaccines are very safe. Answering the last question, when the public is likely to get it, public, I think, is going to get it shortly because by the time of March, April, a lot of vaccines will come into the market. Many other vaccines, which are in the phase 3 trial, or which are likely to go into the marketing testing phase, they all would be coming out with their vaccines, which means the pressure on the time might come down. So they will be able, they should be able to get it. If today's news says we will be able to get all the Tamil Nadu people will be able to be vaccinated in 4 months' time, that's what they have said. I think it may not be far off when we'll be able to give vaccines to all the people. I think it's even for public, there is a priority list which they have created. The health workers, people above 50 years, people above 60, below 50 with comorbids, and so on is there. Most of the people, I think, by September, October, my guesswork, if I'm right, as I said, COVID, no one knows anything about it. We never thought, I was one of the persons who said vaccine will take 2 years to make. It is not easy to make a vaccine. This is an extraordinary situation, and this extraordinary situation called for extraordinary decisions. That's what we have done. The medical community has done. The scientists have done this job. And the vaccines have come to the market. And I'm very sure in another 4 months' time, we'll have some more vaccines, as I said, to reduce the burden, and we'll have more people, more companies coming out with the vaccines.
It was a very exhaustive answer. I think it covered a lot of questions, and you've given answers to various other questions in this. Coming to the questions, few of our viewers have asked, is it mandatory, necessary that everyone go for vaccinations, or is there any age criteria to get vaccinated?
Vaccine is not mandatory. It is not. It's actually you are asked to give a consent form before you take the vaccine, because this is an extraordinary situation. As I said, it's a pandemic, wherein you are taking a vaccine to prevent a disease, and when you take that vaccine, you may have some side effects and so on. So they always get a consent. It is mandatory. It is not mandatory to take the vaccine actually. But I don't think you will come across a situation where people would hesitate to take a vaccine once it becomes very popular. Now, of course, probably there is some vaccine hesitancy among people and among medical community because the efficacy and safety data. That's because they are not aware of the data that is available, and also the public also is not aware of how the studies are conducted. My take on this is like this: if a vaccine comes to the stage from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, where more than 1,500 people have taken and they apply for a permission to bring it into the market, that means there should not have been any major side effects with this stuff. In a phase 2 or a phase 3 trial, of which most of the medical people are aware of, if there are any side effects or any toxicities, the study would have been stopped. The fact that it has passed these tests itself means that they are very, very safe, which means people who are going to take now are as a part of the trial. Some of the vaccines which is available in the market, part of the trial, the trial that we are going through the trial, and we'll get the phase 3 safety data will come to the public domain now, and that appears that clearly proves that it's a very safe vaccine to take it. What's the question you asked, or I derailed a bit the question, Ajay?
No, that was the question. And there's one more question which said, is there any age criteria to get vaccinated? Like paper, some
you
there are
asked
some
about the age
papers
criteria.
or some news articles which say people above the age of 60, 65 shouldn't get vaccinated because the risk of immunomodulation is there and all that. Some technical jargon is being used and floating around. So, is there any concrete evidence to support this?
No, as of now, we are not giving this vaccine to pregnant people because the study did not cover
pregnant.
any of
people
the
above the age of 60.
Correct. No, that's what. No, let me tell you, pregnant. Similarly, children below age 10 years were also not being inoculated because we don't have much data on that. But in people above 20 years where the studies have been done, we give it routinely. It can be given routinely as a vaccine to prevent the corona disease. There is no age criteria. There is nothing like immunosenescence sets in, and you don't need to take the vaccine or anything like that. People do not take the vaccine. In any country you take, in any thing you take, there is a group of people who are never vaccinated. That group is a religious group who do not take any injections. And similarly, people who are having diseases with coagulation problems and so on, they hesitate to take injections. And similarly, people who are quite old and in old age homes who cannot be taken to the vaccine centers. I'm talking of the other vaccines. They are not vaccinated. Similarly, infants and children below 5 years are also not routinely vaccinated. Only after a particular age, only we start vaccinating this. So this group constitutes about 5 to 10% of the population, which benefits from the herd immunity of the disease per se, and also the vaccine-related immunity that one gets. So there is no age criteria. If it is about 20 years, you can always have the vaccine without any fear.
Okay. So I think the viewers would have benefited from this answer. And as we are talking about vaccines, there has been a question. Someone has asked, there were a lot of beneficiaries who have been vaccinated yesterday. They were feeling unwell after the vaccination and one was hospitalized. Such news always affects the confidence of people who are waiting to administer the vaccine. So the question being, should the side effects like fever and pain at the site should not bother these? Is it worth the trouble, or is it enough to get one demoralized and move away from the path of the vaccine? Should people be worried about
one of
these
my very close friend has sent a WhatsApp message. There are 40 million users of vaccine, and there are 400 million rumor spreaders. So this is what happens whenever a good thing comes. If you have read an Alistair MacLean novel, I think you would always see he's a specialist in disaster novels. When the disaster occurs, when majority of the people say one thing, there will always be one person who will say another thing, entirely different thing he comes. And you need to have people like that. Only that makes us to balance ourselves. So that's how the life is. Coming back to the question that you have asked, the side effects like fever and body pains is there for can be there for any vaccine. It is not only for corona vaccine.
COVID.
Whether you take a swine flu vaccine, even for a child, when you give a polio triple, child definitely has a fever. We accept that fever for one day, 12 to 24 hours of fever and body pains, or the pain at the injection site, we accept. And we don't bother much about that. Same is the situation in COVID vaccines too. But this hospitalization and all those things, once in a while, one can have a pain. They might go to the hospital, might like to stay there because there is so much of hype about the side effect. One has to be a bit cautious. But I can tell you with confidence, there have been no major side effects that have been reported so far in any of these people who have undergone vaccination.
Okay, I think that answers the question which is posed by one of our viewers. So, and should people who have already suffered COVID, so become COVID positive once and then cured of the disease and then become COVID negative, should they also get vaccinated? And as a follow-up, this is my own question. As a follow-up, this was asked by one of the persons, and as a follow-up, I'd like to pose one more question. So these patients would have developed some kind of antibodies, if I'm right, COVID antibodies they would have developed. So when these patients are found to have COVID antibodies, should they take the vaccine now, or should they wait for them for the people who are actually COVID antibody negative to take the vaccine first and give some space for them and then take the vaccine at a later date?
So your question is, if the patient has already developed COVID disease
and
or
then
he
become
has
negative
COVID
now.
antibodies, should he sidestep and give way for a guy who does not have COVID antibodies for it?
Correct.
The answer for that is, if one is a healthcare worker, irrespective of whether he has suffered the disease or not, he has to go for the COVID vaccination.
Even if he has antibodies.
Irrespective of the antibody. Actually, we are not saying that it is mandatory to have an antibody test for you to get vaccinated. There is no need for any antibody test. Originally, there was a thought that we can do an antibody test, and if one has COVID antibodies, IgG antibodies, one can wait, and that means he has got a fairly good immunity he has got. He need not take the vaccine. But nowadays, we don't say that. We insist on this. We tell everyone to take the 2 shots of vaccine so that you develop a good immunity, B cell immunity, and also a T cell immunity, which will be long lasting at least for about a year. We'll have the vaccine. So there is no difference between a person who has suffered from the disease or who has antibodies without suffering from the disease, or one who does not have an antibody. All of them have to undergo. So when his turn comes, he should go for the COVID vaccination.
So if he, you mean to say if he does not go for the COVID vaccination when his turn comes, he is the loser and nobody else?
Exactly. You said it right. He is the loser. If he does not go for the vaccination when his turn comes, he is the loser. But in our country, what they have said is if you miss your vaccination, you can always get an alternative date. That's what the government has been saying. You can get an alternative date and go for the vaccination.
Okay. One person has asked, there are 2 vaccines which are being launched in India. I think they are Covaxin and Covishield, if I'm right. Do we have a choice? Can we select the vaccine? This is from the one of the viewers.
Yeah.
Right now, apart from healthcare workers, I don't think anybody else is being given the choice. Am I right? I think you can elucidate more on that.
Yeah. Only health workers are getting now. You have a choice of either a Covishield or COVID. But as of now, some states have been given Covaxin and some have been given a Covishield, and they are administering it. And as I said, since the results are fairly equal, my take on this vaccine is, if the vaccine can give even a 60% protection, it is definitely much better than not having any protection. 60% protection against corona is much better. I always view the vaccine administration, I compare the person with a disease and the person with who is not been who is likely to be vaccinated. Say you have a person who develops a COVID disease, and this person with the COVID disease is in the hospital praying to God that he must recover well. Because as I said, the behavior of the COVID is highly unpredictable. How it goes, we don't know. Though we keep telling the majority of the people recover extremely well, we don't know which patient is going to land himself in a problem. So this patient, when he gets to the hospital, COVID disease patient, he has to pray gods, and he keeps doing all kinds of things to come out of this. Compared to that, if you have a vaccine, if you have a fever, there is nothing to worry about, because the vaccines, all the vaccines do not have have only the property to make a patient develop an immunity alone, not cause a disease, or maybe cause a mild side effects of fever and body pains. So one should compare between fever, a mild discomfort of fever and body pains, with a disease which you develop without getting vaccinated and developing a COVID disease. If you compare both, one would realize that having a vaccine and having a mild side effect of a fever and body pains is worth the trouble rather than getting into the hospital with the COVID disease and suffering with it, and make himself and others pray for his good recovery.
I think you just reiterated the point that one should go for the vaccine whenever he's given the chance. Okay. I hope the viewers got that. That was a very important point. And we have one more question. How would you rate the risk associated with mRNA-based vaccine compared to traditional methods? Again, some person is worried about the risk only. So there is a lot of skepticism. I think we have to alleviate these fears.
Yeah, there is certain amount of vaccine hesitancy among the people. That's why they are asking this question. As I said, whether it is a mRNA, for example, if you take the Pfizer, they claimed about 80 to 90% of Moderna said about 70 to 75%. Our Covishield, they have said about 70%. They have, all of them have claimed more or less the same kind of immunity levels and the safety and the efficacy levels. When that is so, I don't think one should worry about the shell vaccine and the RNA vaccine and the virus vaccine and so on. I don't think that the fear is justified among the public. As I said, any vaccine, if it completes the phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 trials and comes to the marketing stage, it means it is a vaccine which is time tested, has not caused any problem, has given a sufficient amount of protection and efficacy in these individuals. So it is going to the next level of uh, trial.
Okay. So again, someone is worried about the risk. In the past 2 days, there's a lot of controversy by the use of Covaxin by the doctors. This puts a lot of doubts and skepticism in the minds of people as these protests have come from doctors. So do you think this is again for sensationalism where it's just yellow journalism, or does it actually hold some weight in it?
No, as I said, in my opinion, if you have a vaccine which gives me 60% protection or 70% protection, whether if Covaxin is available or Covishield is not available, or the vice versa, or Moderna, whatever is available, my take would be to go and take that vaccine as you are getting a 60% protection with that vaccine. So in a vaccine situation, you worry one about safety, other about efficacy. The doubt of safety is not there at all with any vaccine. They are all very, very safe vaccines. They have been proven that they are very safe. There may be some stray side effects and some WhatsApp newses and so on. We have all become a WhatsApp museum followers. I think we should get away from that actually. So there are a lot of information that goes on. But the truth of the matter is the safety of the vaccines have been proven beyond doubt. The efficacy we'll know over a period of time. Definitely the most of the trials have done. As I said, we have not waited for 2 years for the virus to see its effect. Since this is an extraordinary situation, the decision has been taken to start the vaccine and to administer the vaccine to people who are in the forefront so that they don't develop serious problems of the COVID.
So does this mean one person has asked, does this mean by May, plenty of vaccine brands will be available and COVID might start coming down or going away? And should there be a choice between the available brands of vaccine?
Definitely by May, June, my take is there will be a lot of vaccines from different countries. Reddy's Labs are coming out with some vaccines, and AstraZeneca is already there, Biotech is already there. And I'm not surprised India might develop the kind of cold chains which other Western countries have got, so that We also will be getting Pfizer vaccines. You will have a choice of vaccines after some time. Like you have a choice of vaccines for swine flu now, you will have a choice of vaccines for COVID also. But the point is, most of them act through the immune system only. Your immune system should be good enough. The biological behavior of an individual is extremely important for the person to develop to mount a good antibody response. I myself have seen some of the patients who come to me after they have suffered with COVID. When I ask for a COVID serology, some have an IgG level of 70, but they keep they're having some symptoms, and some have an IgG level of just 3 or 4 in single digits, but they're fairly okay. So the numbers do not mean anything. It only means your immune capability. There are two ways. One is an active immunity which one develops. Other is a passive immunity, the T cell immunity, which is robust if the patient has got it in plenty. You would be able to ward off an attack irrespective of which vaccine you take. I always believe in the aphorism that costly ones are not always good ones. What suits the individual is much more important than what suits his purse.
Okay. So I think that would have answered that person's question. So on a personal note, given a choice between Moderna or Oxford or Covishield or Pfizer or Covaxin, among the currently available brands, which one would you prefer? We
I
have a
would
choice
not
in
think
India
of
only
any of
two.
the, yeah, I would not think of any choice at all. I just want a vaccine. I would grab it and take it. In fact, I'm going to get one tomorrow. I'm not going to wait for which brand I'm going to get it, which is the best one. I'm not going to do that. I think it is, as I said, it is much better than having a vaccine and having some protection rather than waiting for a good vaccine to come and hoping that you don't get the COVID disease. So best is to grab it when you have it. That's what one of my colleagues from UK also said. In their country, there has been a big queue for the vaccines. There has never been an occasion where there are individuals who did not sign a consent who said we don't want a vaccine. That everyone wants a vaccine now. I think that will be the state in our country too in another 2 to 3 months time. And the health workers are showing the way by getting vaccinated. Yesterday we saw in this thing news a lot of celebrities, celebrity doctors getting vaccinated. I think that must give the confidence to most of the public that there is no cause for any fears with the brand that's being given and with the vaccine that's being administered.
True. I think we should all grab the vaccine when it is available to each one of us, when it becomes available to the general public. So, one more important question is: does this vaccine cover the new strain, the new UK strain?
That is a good question. Yes, whenever a vaccine is prepared, the vaccine preparation always takes into consideration about 8 to 10 mutants that might come through. So the general belief is that it will take care of the new mutant that is circulating across in UK and also in India too. And in that sense, India will be the best thing for us because our numbers with regards to the UK strain is very less, and the number of people who are getting vaccinated is much high. And I'm very confident that India will be able to provide a data to the foreign countries, to the people abroad, that with this vaccination of the ones that are the Indian-made vaccine, that we are able to got a protection to the UK strain too. I think I'm very sure about it. Most of the vaccines are always like, even the swine flu, if you take, they cover for influenza A, A1, A2, B, they cover all these things, they cover into that. Similarly, is this, it does cover this strain.
So we have a question from a viewer. If one becomes COVID positive, then after what gap he has to take COVID vaccine for protection? So he wants to know the time interval between the time of COVID positivity and recovery and then vaccination. Suppose the vaccination drive has started on 16th January. If he has become positive 1 week back and he is recovered, can he take the vaccine now? or should he wait for some more time before he has to take it?
The usual cutoff period we say is the quarantine is 14 days, right? After 14 days, the quarantine period is over. Antibodies start developing after 3 to 4 weeks after the COVID infection. After it becomes positive, after 3 to 4 weeks, antibodies start developing in his system. He can take the vaccine safely after about a month's time. There is nothing to, if he does not have any other symptoms, he can take it safely after a month's time. A safe period of 1 month can be given for this.
Okay. And I think the current recommendation is that you need 2 shots of the vaccine for an adequate protection. What can be considered a safe time gap between the 2 jabs? Or the other part of the same question is, can we be considered safe only after a minimum of 2 jabs, or 1 shot is enough?
1 shot is definitely not enough. 1 shot makes individual develop antibodies and also makes the immune system develop certain amount of memory. Memory clones are developed. When you take the second shot after a month, what happens is the memory cells are stimulated and then permanently certain memory cells are created so that you get the protection for that 1 year period or 1.5 year period, or till you take the next vaccine, you have that shot. So 1 shot is not sufficient. 1 shot you will get only the antibodies only, but there is not much of immune protection. Immune memory cells may not be formed at all. So second, you must always take it. When you take the second is, in my opinion, I think depends upon the age. If one is young, their immune system is extremely good, even if you delay it by a month or 2. Because in UK, if you take, they said originally we'll give within a month's time. After that, they said you can take it after 3 months too. And maybe they might change. It should change, because if one is old, immune senescence would set in. In the formation of the memory cells, memory clones will be a bit difficult. In such individuals, it is better to take it within a month's time. So 1 month is the cutoff period, minimum period within which you must take the next vaccine. It can go up to 2 to 3 months.
Okay, and that was clear. So one more question we have: will people need an annual booster like the influenza vaccine or a swine flu vaccine? Will they need an annual booster as the strains change?
I think they might. We have not completed the pandemic yet.
Correct.
So once we complete the pandemic and come to a stage of sporadic cases, we are going to have, I don't think we can do away with corona that easily. People have forgotten the corona. One of my friends yesterday spoke about corona. He was telling, have the people forgotten about corona and stopped wearing masks? He said, people may have forgotten about corona, but corona has not forgotten the people. It will keep coming in distinct waves, once in a while, like swine flu we are seeing. We are seeing many other diseases like that. It will become sporadic cases will be there. That's the reason why we are insisting on this good habit of mask and other good habits which the corona has taught us. So your question was, Ajay, you were asking what is the question that you have to tell me?
Will we need an annual booster? Will we need an annual booster?
Yeah, that part, it will take some more time. You will definitely need an annual booster, because as I said, corona has come to stay. You will need an annual booster, but that will come after, that data will come only after some more time. We don't have the data as yet now.
I think why that question is very significant is because we already have so many different strains of the COVID vaccine, if I'm right. We have the UK strain, which is causing a lot of problems and politics. And we have the Nigerian strain. We have so many strains that we can actually conduct a World Cup. So I think we need to include more and more antigenic strains in the current vaccine. And it needs to be updated. I think like the software of an iPhone or something, the vaccine needs to be
That's what
enhanced.
they do usually for a swine flu vaccine. If you take the first swine flu vaccine and the next swine flu vaccine, it is an entirely different strain.
Correct.
What you have, as I said, when you modify the strain and prepare a vaccine, they prepare it for the 8 or 9 strains that are likely to develop. So even corona vaccine also will be like that only. It will be you would need a booster, an yearly booster. You would definitely need, and that would be to take care of any increase in spurt of cases, number one. Number two, also to prevent any new antigenic strain that can occur and cause an atypical disease.
I think people are tired of wearing masks. So some person has asked, will the vaccine do away the need for wearing masks? I think everybody has that question. Everybody is uncomfortable. I think then imagine the plight of the doctors who are in the PP for 8 to 10 hours per day. Will the vaccine do away the need for wearing masks? I don't think it is going to do away.
Maybe it will take another 10 months for us to answer that question. As of now, I don't think we can do away with the mask. Safety is important and caution also is very important. Because you have taken the vaccination does not mean you are extremely safe. You can go out and cough and you can go out and breathe whatever you feel like. No, not at all. One has to be very, very careful until the whole population, or at least we develop 70% of the herd immunity. Once you develop that 70%, which should be detected by the seroprevalence studies. When you do the serum studies, we know how many people have developed IgG antibodies. And if that's more than 60-70%, it means the country is extremely safe, when probably there might be things like doing away with the masks and so on. But until such time, one has to be cautious and one has to be wearing mask whenever he goes into any crowded place.
Okay. One concerned person has asked, how would I register myself and my family for a vaccination drive? I don't think that option is open as yet. Do you elaborate more?
No, there is going to be an app that is going to come from the government, and I think even at Apollo Hospital also there is going to be an app that will come. It has not come yet. It's now only for the healthcare workers that is being given now, as of now. Once it comes, one can register with their Aadhaar cards, and they will get an SMS for the day on which they'll get the vaccination.
Okay. So again, one person has asked, if a person has already gone through COVID and recovered, can he opt out, or he still has to take the vaccine? I think you have already answered this question.
The choice is yeah. So I've already answered that. The choice is the individual's choice. If you have suffered from COVID, and if you want to opt out and give way for anything out of generosity or magnanimity, that is his choice. But getting a vaccination does not make him prone for any serious disease. It only doubles his immunity. One need not throw away a chance of being vaccinated just because he has suffered from the COVID disease. Actually, in the UK, most of my friends who have developed disease have gone for vaccines. They have taken vaccines because UK suffered the worst brunt in most of the hospitals, and most of them have gone for the vaccination to prevent themselves from.
Okay. One more relevant question has been asked. After the second dose of vaccine, should an antibody titer be done to confirm whether you have developed an immunity? Is it worthwhile doing an antibody test? Or I think it's like most other vaccines, we take it and be done with it.
I don't think one need to do any repeat antibodies. We have not come to that stage as yet now. But I don't think one need to go for antibody testing to see whether he has developed a vaccination. We don't do that, actually. You give the vaccination and you are prevented. That's it. Because for that only the phase 4 trials are done. The phase 3 trials are done to see whether the vaccine is safe. And after a particular period, they check the serum to see whether the antibody levels are reached and whether he does not develop a disease. So that phase is done by the phase 3 studies. And you don't do the same thing in a marketing strategy, whether you have developed an antibodies or not, or something like that. You will only make the labs richer by going for antibody tests. But I don't think you are going to get any benefit out of that because the numbers do not matter. One may have 5 or one may have 15 antibodies. It doesn't matter at all.
And one more important question has been asked. People have doubts as to, today you receive Covaxin, and are you guaranteed that your second shot will also be Covaxin? Or it can be one Covaxin and one Covishield. I think there should be a system. Should be the same, right?
It should be the same one. Number two, if it's not available, you can take the different. I don't think there is any Either for not, you can take, like your swine flu, you can take one vaccine this time, and next booster can be a different vaccine. Same way is, it's after all, it is the same virus. It's a Covaxin virus, and it has got a memory. You see, we are telling people who have had common cold infections also have certain antibodies developing to this coronavirus. Without a corona disease, they have some antibody. If that be the case, if you have a vaccine to the corona shell or mRNA strain or the mRNA part, a strain of this thing, definitely the memory cells are always there. And if it is a corona that is recognized, antibodies are produced. I don't think one need to think that if you have Covaxin now, you must have Covaxin next time, Covishield now, and Coach next time. I don't think it is. As of now, I don't think anyone has said that kind of data about it.
Okay. One important question has been raised. Will it be safe to send students to school without vaccination? This is there, I think, in most of the parents' minds who've been managing the children and work at home for almost a year. When will schools reopen? There are still a set of parents who are very skeptical about sending children to school, and they are very comfortable with online classes. But there's other group of parents who will be waiting for the school to reopen. Is it safe to send to school children to school without vaccination? One question I'll add to that: after vaccination, is it actually safe to send them to school? I think two questions are there in that.
After vaccination, it is safe. With regards to children and vaccination, I don't think I have much data on that. But since it is said children do not suffer with the kind of disease which the adults suffer, it is not to be worried at all. They just carry the infection, and we always said they are the super spreaders. And once with vaccination, you achieve certain kind of herd immunity in the community. I don't think even these super spreaders are not going to be of any big thing. This will be a cause of worry in older children where they need to be vaccinated. About children above 17, 18 years, maybe yes, they need to be vaccinated and go to the school. But in younger children, I don't think there is any such fear of immune storm and the serious COVID diseases and category C diseases and so on. We are not seeing any so far.
What about people with comorbidities, pregnancy and cardiac patients, transplant recipients? Do they need to take the vaccine or should they wait? Because a lot of developments, even in the state, have been changed because of COVID-19.
Pregnancy, we don't have data, so we are not recommending anybody.
They are not recommending, correct.
Who is pregnant to go for the COVID vaccination. Other categories, yes, people with cardiac disease, stents, post-transplant, CKDs, diabetes, asthma, TB, COPD. We tell them to go for the vaccination.
Okay. In the beginning of the pandemic, we reached a peak around 3 to 4 months after the European countries. Similarly, UK is peaking for the second time now. Do we expect another peak in our country by April, May 2021, or is it not going to be like that, or we have already plateaued? What do you think is going to happen? It's all speculation, but still.
That's what I have answered. Most of these things, meetings that we attend, we always keep telling that we must be bracing ourselves for a second wave. The pandemic does not just come and disappear like that, actually. It will, as I had mentioned, one of my friends had said, though we can forget COVID, COVID will not forget us. So that's what it means. COVID will keep coming in second waves and third waves. You have asked a great question. That question I answered. Again, I'll repeat it for the sake of, see, when we are likely to get the second peak sometime in April, May, yeah, like you rightly said, there was a gap of more than 4 months between us and the UK, US for us to peak. And in the first peak, our advantage was, I think if you remember, most of the writers started writing, even I myself wrote in Facebook condemning that, saying that India would have a plethora of cases. There will be a lot of people on the disease waiting for admission, and death rates, mortality rates, everything happened, nothing happened. Probably because we had drugs available, fortunately, by that time, and we were using it quite effectively. Similarly, we have started the vaccination at a time when the UK is having the problems there with the UK strain. Our numbers is somewhere around 50, 60 with the UK strain now. And our number of people who are getting vaccinated is, yesterday itself, I think somewhere there's about 2 lakhs official figures, there's 1 lakh 91 odd patients have been vaccinated. And in another 3 months' time, the estimate is about 3 crore people will be vaccinated. And the 3 months, January, February, March. So if they say April is the time when they're going to peak, we'll have a lot of people vaccinated with the COVID vaccines. And there will be certain amount of immunity, herd immunity that would have been achieved with this. So my wishful thinking is that we will have a second wave, but we will not suffer the way we have suffered in the first wave. Our second, it's always like that. If you take the epidemic models of any epidemic, mathematical models or epidemic models of any epidemic or pandemic, if you take and see, they have a first peak, they have a second peak, and the third peak, the first to second peak is always less. The second to third peak is again a lesser, the intensity and the ferocity is always less with regard to the infectivity, but the seriousness of the disease may be there. You may have people who are suffering with a serious COVID disease in the second wave or a third wave that can happen. That so as a disease dies off and it becomes sporadic. That is a natural history of the pandemic. That is how it goes on. So as I say, India may not have. It's my visual thinking that may not have, because by that time we have about 3 crore people vaccinated with COVID vaccine.
So you mean to say, in spite of vaccination, we may have a second or a third wave. So that's what we should understand. So but it might not be as severe as the first wave.
Correct? Yeah, that's the natural history of the pandemic. The natural history of the pandemic is always like that. We are likely to have or not. Despite the vaccination, there may be some. As I said, there will be one group of individuals who will not get vaccinated, who will hesitate to get vaccinated, who will have fear of vaccination, who do not want to be a part of the vaccination drive. So there are so many factors. Those people may always suffer. As I said, 10% of the people never get vaccinated. Various groups are there in that actually, in any vaccination program you take.
We are reaching the end of the program. I'll have just 2 last questions and we'll end the program. A lot of people were asking whether it is mandatory and all that, and you were like saying it could be mandatory and it could not. It is up to you, entirely up to you. But
yeah, not mandatory.
You're going to travel. You can't be without traveling. And is this COVID vaccination card or COVID vaccination certificate going to be made compulsory for you to travel outside the country? Like in place, if you have to travel to some places of Africa, you need a yellow fever vaccination certificate. Like that, you think going to UK, tomorrow you have to go to UK for a conference or to visit your daughter or son, then will the person need a COVID vaccination card? So which means then it will become mandatory, right? If you have to go out of the country. Is it going to happen?
Depends on the country, no? That's why if the country that you are visiting insists on your being vaccinated, then you may have to take it. It may become mandatory. Sometimes the relative, I have had patients here who will come and tell me, my daughter or son has asked me to take the flu shot and come here because the flu is prevalent here. I want a flu shot here. So we give them a flu shot and send them abroad actually. So both ways can happen. The mandatory part will depend on how serious the disease is actually. As of now, COVID causes a serious problem only in about less than 1% of people only. It causes a very serious and a severe problem. So that is why I don't think countries are going to say that it is mandatory to show a certificate to say. There is sometimes there are some things that is going on. You need to have a COVID certificate to say to get into a flat or something. I don't think it is. It's too early to say now to say what the country's rules are going to be, the visa rules are going to be. I think we have to wait and watch only about that aspect. Yellow fever is a different ballgame, but this I think we have to wait and watch only for the corona thing.
The last question: what is your final message to viewers who are thinking whether to get vaccinated or not, and how do you address the general hesitancy among the public about the fears of getting vaccinated?
Yeah, the fears about vaccine is absolutely bullshit. I don't think you should worry about the vaccination causing serious problems. As I've been stressing from the beginning, the safety and efficacy are two different things. The safety has been proved beyond all reasonable doubts. If you ask the efficacy, no vaccine will give 100% efficacy. You will not be 100% safe with any vaccine for that matter. You'll get about 70% efficacy. You will get. The rest of it is from your immune system only, which means any vaccine you take, whether it is Covishield or Covaxin or Moderna or Pfizer vaccine, Oxford vaccine, whatever you take, you will get about 60 to 80% of the immunity. It does not mean if the study says they have got 75% immunity, all will not get 75%. Some may get 55, some may get 65, like that. So if you get a 50% immunity with your COVID virus vaccine, rest will be from your immune system that will be fortified with the general resistance, and you would be able to fight the disease. So my advice to the viewers is that go and grab the vaccine when you get a chance. Never hesitate. The vaccine hesitancy should not be there at all, because after all it is a vaccine made to prevent a serious corona disease, a serious problem in a group of individuals, so that we can cut down the chain of transmission of infection, which is very, very important. As I said, the next wave of this corona UK strain is a highly infectious strain. May not cause a serious disease. A highly infectious strain may cause a serious disease in youngsters. So to cut down that chain of transmission, one should take the vaccine, one to prevent himself, two to prevent it from going on to the others. Thank you. I think with that message, take home message, we can end the thing. I thank you all the viewers, and thanks Ajay for going through the Facebook questions and beaming on to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Narasimhan. Yeah. And thank the viewers for attending this program, and we'll stop the live session now. Thank you very much.